Hello and welcome to the Trending Now podcast for this Friday, September 6, 2024. I'm Louie and thanks for joining us as we recap the week that was on Trending Now, which you can catch every Monday to Friday, 7 p.m., 11:30 on CHCH, CHCH.com, or streaming live on our Trending Now YouTube page. Coming up on today's show, less than 2 months until Americans head to the voting booth, Democratic candidate Kamala Harris and Republican Donald Trump neck and neck in the polls ahead of the first of two debates happening next week. Trending Now host and producer Nicole Martin joins us off the top for a look at the state of the race. Meanwhile, federal NDP leader Jagmeet Singh has withdrawn from the supply and confidence deal with the Liberal minority government that kept them afloat. How close are we to a federal election? Well, Jason Gaidola has been following this story and joins us with the latest on that and more. And U.S. officials say the founders of a company connected to Canada received more than $750,000 in fees and commissions as part of alleged Russian ploy to dupe right-wing influencers into sowing division among Americans. Trending Now writer Roger Collins has more on that story before we say goodbye. But before we say goodbye, we say hello.
Hello.
To Nicole Martin, the host and producer of Trending Now. And it's been a while since we've checked on the state of the race.
Honestly, I didn't even know what month, what day it is. When you said less than 2 months, it really clicked into me that this is it. This is the pivotal time for the election campaign.
This is it. We'll be looking even further. You'd be looking about 4 months down the road. That would be January 6th, of course, an important day. 2 weeks after that,
the insurrection. Yeah, okay, and then
January 20th. So we're watching these dates on the calendar that just keep getting closer and closer. And the polls keep getting closer and closer. Kamala Harris enjoyed a bit of a boost. The DNC boost didn't really come, though, this week. We found that out this week, that she didn't really get that added points that we thought she'd get after a pretty successful convention.
She definitely saw a lot of donations for the campaign, a lot of money. She's seen a lot of endorsements now from high-profile people, including a lot of Republicans. But no, not really. They're so close in the polls. There's really no clear frontrunner here. And you even have networks like Fox, who Trump is now bashing on Truth Social because they have their own polls. And, in some cases, Georgia seems like a very big state that could be a toss-up here. And if Kamala Harris wins, like she's maybe slightly predicted to, that could just be the whole election in her favor then.
You're talking slightly. Real Clear Politics is a website that basically takes all the polls and aggregates them into one. So RCP's poll average, a number to watch. They currently have Harris plus 1.8 nationwide. When you look at the top battleground states, that's Arizona, Virginia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, the difference in those states, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, as you mentioned, the difference in those states plus 0.2. For Kamala Harris.
Yeah, very close.
Yeah. How have you seen this race play out this week, though? What's caught your eye this week?
Oh my God. There's just been a lot of chaos. I think today is a big one because so much of it is tied to Trump's court cases, which I know you'll touch on a bit more with Jason afterwards. But we have that. We have the debate. Like, there's been so much back and forth on the debate, and would Trump be pulling out of it or not? No, it's solidified. It's happening. It's Tuesday next week in Pennsylvania. And a lot of the demands that he has made, Kamala Harris's camp has agreed to. So we know there will be muted mics while the other person's talking, which I'm actually shocked that that's something Trump wanted. Because think about Hillary Clinton in those debates, okay? He was right on it with the mics hot. No live audience there. So it'll just be like dead silent.
Yeah.
Which, usually he would probably feed off the audience. And they had a virtual coin toss. He won the flip, so he's decided to speak last in the closing statements.
And it was Harris has agreed to the muted mic. That was kind of her sticking point. She really wanted him to be able to. Well, she kind of wanted to jump in because she did have some pretty memorable one-liners in the Democratic run a few years ago. The I'm talking right now. I feel like she wanted the chance to get to shut him down.
Oh, her debate with Mike Pence at the time. Yeah, there were some pretty good moments. She was a prosecutor, right? So she knows what she's doing. She can argue.
As we're going to talk about his trial. He's a convicted felon. But yeah, the Mike's was interesting. The ABC, we thought he was going to pull out. What are you watching for next week? Like, what is there a low bar? Because we saw Trump's answer on childcare yesterday. You know, that was a viral moment. Trump was asked about childcare. He ended up talking about tariffs and really went on this 2.5 minute word salad that really didn't make any sense. Is that what, you know, are Democrats just kind of hoping Trump opens his mouth and words come out?
I think so. They're going to pounce on it. And that was such a viral moment. And not only just about the childcare aspect, but we have clips of him talking about abortion that have gone viral. But with NATO and the tariffs and Russia, this is such a pivotal time, especially with all, as you're going to talk about later, Russian interference. We know the Ukraine war. And it's so contentious in the United States that you have a president who said he essentially would not even help the NATO countries if they're not putting in 2% GDP and siding with Putin. So, like, is that what you want? And then you have Putin trolling Kamala Harris, being like, oh, no, I want her to win. Like, okay, all right. So that, to me, I'm sure she's going to grill him on that on Tuesday. I'm expecting that. And then he's going to grill her on having a lot of her own economic platform coming forward that's copying some of his own ideas that he came out with. I think he sent her a MAGA hat because he's like, you're following a lot of the things I'm pitching here. Yeah. Not to mention his whole efficiency program he announced yesterday too with Elon Musk. So I don't know if that's going to benefit him. Yeah. Like right now, that's also kind of sticky, and you're going to have someone like Elon Musk run it when he just let go of a bunch of workers who, I don't know, like he's trying to be on board with the labor unions. Everything he's doing is contradictory. So I don't know if she'll call him out on that.
September 10th. Will this be the most watched debate, do you think?
Oh, yeah. I think so.
Like, it's like, this is the big one. This is the big one. There's set to be two, right?
Let's just
pretend
to be
this one.
We're watching the season. This is the season of U.S. politics on Netflix, okay? And we just had the bombshell season opener of Biden versus Trump debate. Everyone's going to be tuning into this one. That one, as boring as it was at most parts, towards the end, like, oh my gosh, like, it was worth the watch. So I think with this one now, when you have someone who's a bit sharper, a bit faster at answering those questions than Biden maybe would have been, it should be one to watch.
If this is a Netflix series, we are about 8 episodes away from, I guess, the season finale, and then it picks up right away. They're not going to be taking much time off.
No, then they have the reunion episodes, right? So the reunions,
live reunions,
that could be the January 6th moments. Yeah, the reunions.
There was a new one of those shows. I heard Amanda and Adam talking about. There is one of those new shows that came out though. One of those.
Love is Blind.
Love
UK.
is Blind. Love is Blind UK.
Well, that's the one we're all watching.
Oh, that's
right
okay. Because there were conversations.
I don't know about Adam.
Okay, I'm not sure.
But the trending now editors, Justin, Francesca, no, but Justin into it.
They can give their opinions. Yeah, I heard Adam was sitting behind me, and then Amanda was passing, and they were talking. So I know it's not quite Love is Blind UK, but it's pretty entertaining for sure. All right, you got a show to get ready for.
Yes.
Okay, we'll see you there. I'll be talking sports, NFL, back.
All right, love it.
We'll talk to you there.
Talk to you then.
All right, my thanks to Nicole Martin for joining me. Jason Gaidola just about to make his way in to the studio for his part. We'll be talking Jagmeet. We'll also be talking this. We mentioned Trump's legal problems. Well, a judge has agreed to postpone Donald Trump's sentencing in his hush money case until after the November election. So a rare win for Trump, as Judge Juan Merchan's decision today grants Trump a hard-won reprieve as he navigates the aftermath of his criminal conviction and the home stretch of his presidential campaign. Now, Merchan delayed Trump's sentencing until November 26th, and that's several weeks after the final votes are cast in the presidential election. It had originally been scheduled for September 18th, and in just about 2 weeks, which is 7 weeks before Election Day. Merchan also delayed a decision on a defense request to throw out the case on immunity grounds. Trump has argued that sentencing him as scheduled would be election interference. Meanwhile, Jason, working on this story, Trump was in front of television cameras and brought up a string of past allegations of acts of sexual misconduct. I mean, Trump just really can't keep his mouth shut. E.G. and Carol front and center. Jason Gaidola here to discuss that and much more. He had some choice words for the television cameras this morning. It felt like summer all over again a little bit.
He always has choice words. And as he exits the courtroom in familiar fashion, I feel like it's almost like Groundhog Day when you watch Trump leave the courtroom. because he's got so much on the go right now as he's trying to stave off these allegations heading into the election. But it's really seen as a win for Trump. As long as these hearings get delayed and decisions and rulings get delayed, it's only going to play into his favor. However, though, I mean, from what we're seeing in polling from some of the pollsters is that Harris still has the lead. And, if you put 2 and 2 together, controversy, you're down on the polls. Trump looks like he has a mountain to climb at this moment of time at trying to win the presidency. So.
And once again, he used a familiar attack that if I was going to sexually assault someone, it wouldn't be this one. I mean, that is a paraphrase, of course, but he said something along those lines, like, take a look at her, basically.
And I think as this proceeds, he's going to get nastier. It's like I'm not shocked that he would come out and say something as bold as that. I mean, it's Trump we're talking about here. So I think right now it's his back is against the wall, and I think it's already set in. His base is going to believe him no matter what. Mm-hmm. And I mean, depending on what the ruling is afterwards, I'm not sure what the legality is if he were to win the presidency. I believe
he can throw it out, right? I mean, he's in charge of the Justice Department.
Out. That's always a possibility. But I mean, as of right now, I think that the focus is that his press conference was still a campaign. Press conference. I mean, to have the Trump Vance thing there, and so I think he's
even in the courtroom, even outside the courtroom.
He's going to find a way to use this when it's right up until Election Day, and I think as crazy as he sounds, he's going to find a way to put it in his favor as much as possible. So, I mean, is it working? I mean, it probably is working to some degree, but I don't think we'll really know until we get closer to Election Day.
It's pretty crazy that this is our third Trump campaign that we're living through, right? Like
it's weird, I know.
2020. If he had just won in 2020, then we'd be done with it. It'd be over. We'd be talking about 2 completely different people, but
Maybe
here
not.
we are talking about Trump still. Speaking of elections,
yes.
NDP federal leader Jagmeet Singh brought a message of hope on Thursday, despite blowing up a deal he had with the Liberal government. How close are we to an election? How big of a surprise was this? Was this coming? You've been on this story all week.
Yeah.
Take us through it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we're that close to this to an election because our very own CHCH Al Sweeney. Mm-hmm. And I know the Toronto Sun, Brian Lilly, who's not so popular figure to some, or maybe he is popular from others. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
It's an acquired taste for a lot of people.
But the point is that I think the key moment yesterday was pressing Singh on whether he actually supports Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, in this moment, because that's what's going to come down to is that because it's almost likely that the Conservatives will bring forward a non-confidence vote over his leadership, which may force an election. And I believe the NDP is going to be tested. Jagmeet Singh is going to be tested in that moment. As soon as they get back to the House of Commons, that's going to be the moment of truth. So there were important questions that I heard that asked towards him, and trying to get an answer out of him, you had to, you had to ask them, because ripping up the deal is one thing. Because I believe
automatically say we're going to the polls at next date.
The New Democrats can still hold the Liberals to some of the agreed programs, pharmacare, dental care, national food program, you name it. Mm-hmm. But as long as but regardless whether they have a deal or not, it's already been the table's already been set for them to really make a choice. And I think right now the NDP made a calculated choice of hey, we're getting into campaign mode. Let's break away. We know we still have our agreed programs. We achieved some things. He said yesterday we achieved some things, but now that the only other test will be when they go back to the House of Commons to see if there will be no confidence in Trudeau. I mean, from what one expert I talked to yesterday, political science expert, says, the Bloc may be not inclined to go into an election right away. So, the vote might get struck down and there might not be enough there. Other than that, I mean, the New Democrats have a lot of ground to cover. They're still number 3. They might be, depending on how the Liberals do, but Jagmeet's got a lot. It's an aggressive move. I believe he's got a lot more ground to cover. His party's got a lot more ground to cover.
Yeah.
But right now they're taking that chance, and they might as well go all in and be aggressive there.
And we saw one of the head National Liberal Party leaders, kind of one of the organizers, step down saying, I don't think Trudeau can do this. It's pretty curious to see, like, Trudeau. I know he was asked about it a few weeks ago. Really has no reaction to the reinvigoration of the Democrats in the U.S.
Yeah.
Like I would have felt like, and I've said this on the show, I think there's a certain level of arrogance that even when you see yourself as popular, as unpopular as you are, you still think that you're the right person to do it. When you look at polling numbers, and I get it, like, and my question to Justin Trudeau will be, what more do you have to prove to yourself? Like, why do you still think you're the best person to be prime minister of this country? If his answer is, well, I think I'm better than Poilievre, well, then, like, that's your answer. Is that enough to win an election? I don't know. But I think it's going to be interesting because I'm not ready for a federal election at all. Like, as someone who hosts a podcast
we just went through one like not too long
exactly.
ago.
So as someone who hosts a podcast called Newsmakers, like, I don't want to be doing like 30 election interviews for each party and each candidate. Like, I'm mentally and physically, like, not ready for a federal election.
Rest up, man, before it happens.
And by the way, Ontario might be doing something too, so they're staying busy. You also had the key rate cut. Anything? This wasn't really big of a surprise. I'm gonna get into it right here.
I mean, it's possible that we could see 50 basis points maybe in the fall. Again, it really depends. There's
they
a
want
lot.
to spur the economy. Like, is this what, like, at the end of the day, like, they want people spending money?
Yeah, I mean,
Those interest rates
they're
coming
obviously
down.
thinking about. I'm assuming they're thinking about Christmas, right? There's a lot that you have to consider. That Canadians want to be able to spend, as much as cost of living's been tough and how expensive life has been. Canadians still want to do the Christmas thing and spend.
Yeah.
So I think I can understand that they want to kind of ease things up and not have have people's pockets a little heavier. So I don't know. Maybe that's a factor, but. Yeah. But I'm not surprised how they're taking a very pragmatic approach into to reducing that interest rate, because again, there's a lot in terms of ground to cover. There's a lot of ground to cover there too. So I think it's possible 50 basis points, but don't be. I could see maybe even two more smaller cuts.
Well, we'll keep our eye on it. I appreciate your insights. I know you got a lot of Trump court stuff to work through, so
it's fun.
get on it. All right. My thanks to Jason Gaidola for joining me today. Still had Roger Collins going to be stopping by. We'll talk to him about the latest in the right-wing influencer Russian propaganda plot. So Roger Collins has been on the story the last couple of days. We'll get him on that. But on the rate cut, Canadians did see another small step of relief from the Bank of Canada this week. For the third consecutive time, the nation's central bank announced an interest rate cut by a 0.25 percentage point. Obviously widely expected by forecasters given ongoing softness in the economy and easing inflation. Bank of Canada maintained its cautious approach when it announced its third consecutive interest rate cut of 4.25%. I wanted to get to this story trending in the U.S. this week. The 14-year-old suspect in a shooting that killed 4 people at a Georgia high school and his father will both stay in custody after back-to-back court hearings today. Now, their lawyers declined to seek bail at the hearings this morning. Colt Gray was advised of his rights along with the charges and penalties he faced, and shortly afterward, his father, Colin Gray, was brought into court. Colin Gray was charged yesterday in connection with the shooting for letting his son possess a weapon. 9 people also hurt in Wednesday's attack at Appalachia High School in Winder outside Atlanta. Colt Gray is a student at the school. He's been charged as an adult with 4 counts of murder. Now, the Gray case comes on the heels of the April sentencing of the mother and father of a high school shooter in Michigan, believed to be the first time parents were held legally responsible for their child's action in school shootings. In that incident, Jennifer and James Crumley, who were parents of Ethan Crumley, who shot and killed 4 classmates in 2021, were sentenced to 10 to 15 years in prison after being convicted for manslaughter. All right, this story is very confusing, and I need some help to get through it, but U.S. officials say the founders of a company connected to Canada received $760,000 in fees and commissions as part of an alleged Russian ploy to dupe right-wing influencers into sowing division among Americans. Roger Collins.
Thanks, Louie.
You seem very interested in this story. Like, you seem like you got your reporter investigative hat on. Like, there's a lot of, like, if this was on a whiteboard, there'd be a lot of red strings going in different directions.
Oh yeah, I'd be Charlie from It's Always Sunny for sure.
Here you go.
It's crazy. It's a can of worms, and it plays into a bigger role of like what's known as, I guess, fifth generational warfare. So like, it's no secret that there's a conflict taking place in Europe with Russia, right? And that conflict extends to the West essentially, and it's here in our country, it's here in the States, and it's a really big problem. We're seeing the consequences of it now with this bombshell report that just came out this week.
Yeah, so an indictment filed Wednesday charged 2 employees of RT, which is a Russian state-controlled media outlet, in a $10 million scheme that purportedly used social media personalities to distribute content with Russian government messaging. Now, while not explicitly mentioned in court documents, the details match up with Tenet Media, founded by Canadian Lauren Chen and Liam Donovan, who identifies as her husband on social media. So these are very outspoken personalities on right-wing circles, both here. They've appeared on Rebel News, True North, all those kinds of right-wing streams. So what are they to have alleged have done, and what's the reaction been? What have we been hearing from Lauren Chen?
Well, there's been no comment from Lauren Chen thus far. Her YouTube account, Tenet Media, has been canceled. All ties from Blaze TV have been pulled, so she used to work for them as well. And at this point, we're not so sure where she stands in this, but we do know it's Tenet Media. Like, the details in the report from the DOJ make it very clear it's Tenet Media. But beyond that, this is still kind of like a developing situation, but the consequences of which are very far-reaching.
So how so? Like these are people that have huge follows and then huge followers. Like, Elon Musk has retweeted or shared Tenet Media before. He shared Lauren Chen, Canada Canuck Chick, or whatever she calls herself. There's a bunch of people, Tim Pool. There's a bunch of people who work for Tenet Media who are now claiming, okay, if I was used, I was duped. Like, this is, but you gotta ask, where did all this money come from? Like, how do you just accept hundreds of thousands of dollars without thinking, like, where's this come from?
It must be nice, right? Just to kind of pull the blinders over and just wonder, or not. But no, this thrust the entire aspect of free speech into under the microscope, right? And it's kind of, it begs the question, at what point is something an opinion, and what point is something an influence campaign launched by one of the biggest foes our nation knows of? So that is kind of like the core crux of the argument that's kind of unfolding online between what should people be allowed to say, and it also draws the question everything, right? Whatever you consume media-wise, you should be taking a step back and asking yourself, okay, what does the consequence of this video or this tweet that I'm reading kind of have going along with it?
Yeah, and there was a Tucker Carlson video from a Russian grocery store that Tenet Media thought was a little too overt.
Oh, yeah.
Thought it wasn't subtle enough that...
yeah, subtle is definitely not the word.
I mean, just the fact that Merrick Garland, the Attorney General of the United States, like, he came out on Wednesday and basically announced these charges. Like, this is significant. Like, does it feel like this story is maybe flying under the radar, especially here in Canada, it seems, with Lauren Chen? But, like, how have you been, you've been following the story online. How is it being picked up?
It's kind of circulating everywhere. I wouldn't say it's falling underneath the radar whatsoever. This is in everyone's face. There are 2 Russia Today journalists that are actually being charged as a part of those indictments that was revealed. And yeah, it's like Tim Pool, Laura Southern. These are all big names in the right-wing kind of sphere of influence, for lack of a better term. These people have hundreds and thousands of followers. These aren't just, sideline Twitter heroes that are making comments online.
But that being said, because we have discussed it, the comments under this video now will mostly be right-wing trolls complaining about our opinions over here. So
most likely.
We welcome you. Thanks for watching. watching. We appreciate the click, and say whatever you want. It's all good. I get paid the same, regardless of what you think in the comment section.
And it's
believe
not $10
it or
million.
not. You're working this weekend? What do you got going on this weekend? I usually ask my guests these questions, but the others left too quickly. So what do you got going on this weekend?
I just have some friends from out of town. They're like moving back to the Golden Horseshoe. They're moving to
Nice.
London, kind of
Okay.
your neck of the woods. And I'm helping them move some stuff from Toronto down
Okay.
there, and that's about it.
Nice. Sounds like fun. So you're off. You're not working.
I'm off.
Wow. Dude, does the weekend crew know that you're off this weekend?
Yeah, they're a little sad,
Yeah.
but I'll send my love.
Roger, appreciate this, buddy.
Cheers, Louie.
All right, Roger Collins, my thanks to him for joining me today, and my thanks to you as well, because we could not do the show without your support. So make sure you like and subscribe to CHCH Podcast so you never miss an episode of this show. And while you're liking and subscribing, make sure you do that for all our various trending now social media channels, including on X and YouTube. And there you go. While you're liking and subscribing, you can subscribe to CHCH Podcasts. Just search Trending Now Podcasts, Newsmakers, or Sportsline, wherever you get your favorite podcasts, or you can go directly to chch.com/podcast. My thanks to Mike Corsten for directing today's show. My thanks to you for tuning in, because we could not do the show without you. From all of us here at CHCH, I'm Louie Bucko. Have a great weekend.